UFC 314, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. This is the full card breakdown. I will be giving you guys my predictions for each fight on the card. Make sure you guys tune in, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And let's get the full card breakdown underway. Starting off the card, we got Nora Cornoli versus Haley Cowan. I'm gonna be picking Haley in this one. I feel like this is a similar matchup. I think they're like a similar type of fighter. I think Nora does make a lot of mistakes. Looking at her last fight versus Jacqueline Cavalcante, who I think is an excellent striker actually, and will make some noise in the bantamweight division. She made a lot of mistakes, and Cavalcante was able to capitalize off of that. She swings a little recklessly. Same thing with Haley a little bit, but I feel like her striking is a little bit more dialed in. She's coming off the loss to Jamie Lynn. It was a unanimous decision, but if you really watched the fight, it was actually a little closer than unanimous. It could have been 2-1 either way. She definitely was pushing the pace, had some striking success, took her down a few times, and landed some pretty clean shots. I think Nora might get clipped in this fight too, but ultimately I'm pretty sure this fight will go decision. Both of these ladies do have some pop on their shots, but I don't think either one of them will score a knockout. Maybe a knockdown. I'm pretty sure somebody will get clipped. They do throw with a lot of anger in their shots, I'll say. But I like Haley's style a little bit better. She walks forward. She's not willing to I feel like Nora's more willing to trade, and Haley's more willing to, let her shots go and, evade more. So I'm going to be picking Haley in this one. I like her striking a little bit more better, or a little better. And we're starting off the night with underdogs. So next up, we got Tresean Gore taking on Marco Tulio. As you can see, Tresean Gore is a big underdog in this fight. I think he's, pretty well-rounded. I think what he lacks is the striking, and Marco Tulio is a monster. He's coming off the knockout over Ihor Potieria, who is, I think, a lot better than Tresean Gore. And he had the nasty, spinning back kick knockout on Contender Series. I like Contender Series guys over Ultimate Fighter. Ultimate Fighter, he was a loser. He lost to Brian Battle in the finale. Tresean Gore, he's made some adjustments to his game. He has a loss to Josh Frim that didn't really, or excuse me, he beat Josh Frim. I don't know why I keep thinking he lost to Josh Frim, but he beat Josh Frim, lost to Cody Brundage almost 3 years ago, and then the Brian Battle, decision loss, the Ultimate Fighter loss. Since then, he beat Tricoli, who's not good at all, and Josh Frim, who isn't really that good. Josh Frim did have a pretty good performance not too long ago, but I would say Tresean Gore does have some, solid wrestling, but he's at a clear disadvantage in the striking. I think Tulio will probably get him out of there, maybe within like 2 rounds, probably get a knockout. But Tresean Gore, he's not a scrub. He's pretty good. But yeah, this is a tough matchup for him. Marco Tulio looks to be, surging up the rankings. He probably score a knockout in this one, and it'll be a tough loss for Tresean Gore, but I'm going with Marco Tulio. Next up, we got Sumadarji taking on Mitch Raposo. This is a tough fight for Mitch Raposo. He's coming off the loss to Andre Lima 10 months ago. It was short notice, but he looked very hesitant in that fight. Didn't let his hands go at all. Wasn't, looking to wrestle like he should have. He looked like he was stuck. He was getting snake charmed the entire fight. Sumadarji, he's very scrappy. He's not, going to allow Mitch Raposo to just grapple him the entire fight. If you look at his last fight with Charles Johnson, he was making Charles fight for those takedowns, and when he got him, he wasn't just letting him outwork him. He fought for some submissions. I think he had like a rear naked choke one time, but they fought back to their feet. Sumadarji's pretty scrappy. He's got really good striking too, and he's got a big reach advantage in this fight, 72 to 64.5 inches. I think it could look similar to, he's not the striker that Andre Lima is, but I think it could look a lot similar to that fight, where he's just keeping Mitch Raposo at bay with leg kicks, body kicks, the jab, I think Sumadarji was gonna give Mitchell Poso, another loss in the UFC. That was a tough, debut. Andre Lima's looking like a monster at flyweight, and Sumadarji's no chump either. So this is a tough, tough back to back fights for Mitchell Poso. But I'm gonna have to go Sumadarji in this one. I think he's too scrappy, and we just saw Ode Osborne go on a 3-fight losing streak. Sumadarji's on a 3-fight losing streak. When your back is up against the wall, you don't know what to expect. So look out for Sumadarji to come out, guns blazing, and I expect a little bit of violence in this one. So I'm going with Sumadarji. Next up, we got Cedricus Dumas taking on Michael Olejejek. I'm gonna be picking Cedricus Dumas. I think Dumas has a little bit more pop in his hands. Olejejek, he's questionable at times. You can see the loss to Michelle Pieta, who we just found out is kind of a bust. He got subbed by Kevin Holland, and then he lost to Shara. He did go 3 rounds with Shara, but Shara can't wrestle. All he does is strike. I feel like Cedricus is able to incorporate, the entirety of mixed martial arts. He's not. I don't think he's like the next middleweight superstar or anything like that, but I think he's gonna have some striking success. Yeah, he's got a 5-inch reach advantage. I think he's gonna I think he could get a knockout in this one, honestly. A lot of people think Cedricus Dumas is bad. I don't think so. I think he had a tough, okay, so this is what I got. He got subbed by Josh Frim, didn't age well. And then he lost to Ruziboyev, but that was a questionable loss. If you look at it again, I think he had like a eye poke. He fell to the ground, ref didn't stop it, and then Ruziboyev ended up getting the finish. It really wasn't a TKO. So, and then he bounced right back into the win column with the Dennis Tululin win, but Tululin's not good. He's 10-10 or 11-9, whatever it is. And for him to go to decision with Dennis Tululin doesn't really look good. But I think Cedricus is the better striker. I think he's going to force the clinch, force the wrestling, and I think he can, I think he could hurt Olejejek. I've seen Olejejek hurt before, and I think Dumas is capable of doing the same thing. So I'm going to Cedricus Dumas, another underdog, plus 165. Man, they think Olejejek is gonna wash him. I don't think so. I think Cedricus is live in this fight. He was supposed to fight not too long ago too, but his fight got canceled. He had to pull out because of an injury. Yeah, he was supposed to fight Zach Reese. Now, if he was fighting Zach Reese, who's a much better wrestler than Olejejek, I would have picked Zach Reese. But Olejejek, like I said, his IQ is questionable. I'm gonna be taking. I'm gonna take Dumas in this one, and I think he can hurt Olejejek. Next up, we got Darren the Damage Elkins taking on Juicy J, Julian Erosa. I'm picking Julian Erosa. I think Darren Elkins, as his name is, he likes to, take a lot of damage. He had a tough win over Daniel Pineda last time out, but I want to say they both were like split open. There's a lot of scrappy scrambles on the mat and stuff like that. But Julian Erosa, he looks pretty good. He's coming off the win against C-Rod. And then right before that, Ricardo Ramos isn't good at all, but he subbed him up. And Ricardo Ramos is a submission ace. So, I just got to count for something. But they're both just about the same records. Darren is 40. We just saw another 40-year-old and Josh Emmett get, outworked. Not saying Julian Erosa is going to, beat the dog crap out of Darren. Well, he might. You never know. But I'm not saying he's going to replicate the performance that Lerone Murphy had or anything like that. But I do expect Julian Erosa to get a hard-fought decision. I think Darren is, too slow on the feet. I feel like Julian Erosa could pepper him with some good shots, incorporate some wrestling and possibly find his back. But I think Julian Erosa gets it done on the scorecards. And, yeah, could be farewell to Darren Elkins. I don't know. Maybe they'll keep him around. He's been in the UFC for a while. Let's see. How many fights does he have? Yeah, 29 fights in the UFC. So, Just about all of his fights have been in the UFC, but I don't know how much longer he wants to do it, and I think Julian Erosa is going to get him out of there. So Julian Erosa is the pick. Next up, at one point, this would have been the youngest fighter versus the oldest guy on the card or on the roster, but we got Chase Hooper, excuse me, taking on Jim Miller. I'm picking Chase Hooper. He's a huge favorite, -700. I think he's that way because of the loss, Bobby Green gave to him. But that Damon Jackson submission was pretty impressive. I called it perfectly too. I wish I was, recording back then, but I was like, I think Jim Miller's gonna get a submission in this one, and what do you know, he did. But Jim Miller, he's a scrappy vet. I think his issue in this fight is he's gonna be very slow on the feet. Chase Hooper, his striking has definitely gotten a lot better. If you look at the Vyacheslav Slaviclaus fight, he was peppering him with some good shots. I think he cracked him, dropped him. I want to say it was like the first or second round. But Chase Hooper's hands have improved a long way. He used to just be jiu-jitsu only. Striking was, definitely not something that he was working on as he has recently. But I think Chase Hooper could be, live for a finish in this one. I think he's gonna run circles around the old man, and I can see, I don't know, method of victory. Maybe he, just goes for the submission, which he's known to do. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a TKO either. Jim Miller was getting cracked by Bobby Green, and he almost got put out twice in that fight. So Chase Hooper, I think, I would have expected a larger reach advantage, but 3 inches isn't bad. I think he's gonna his striking is gonna look a lot better than what it did in that even in that Borshchev fight. So look out for Chase Hooper, TKO, or maybe like a club and sub finish. Next up, we got Verna Jandiroba taking on Yan Janan. I'm gonna be taking Verna. Yeah, I'm gonna be taking Verna, and I want to say this could possibly be a title eliminator. Yeah, I can't think who's a strawweight champion right now. Oh yeah, Whaley. Yeah. Come on now, Magnum Whaley. Xiaonan got worked by Whaley, got put to sleep, and ended up waking up. But I think Verna is going to look to grapple, and I think she can avoid a lot of Yan Zhanon's big shots. Yan does have some power though. She did crack Whaley early in that fight, and the finish over Jessica Andrade was tough. First round, right? I think it was the first round knockout. But I don't see Verna walking forward into a power puncher like that. I think Verna is going to be very calculated, use the grappling, probably have some striking success. I like her kicks a lot too. She does have 2 losses against Amanda Ribas, and I want to say it's not Angela Hill. She beat Angela Hill. What was the other loss? No, wrong button. Verna lost to Mackenzie Dern. So those are, some pretty good losses on the record. Everybody else, Amanda Lemos, Lupi, it was a good W. Marina Rodriguez is a good W. Angela Hill is a good W. And yeah. But yeah, Verna, I think they're not necessarily pushing her, but she's on the path to get, a title shot. She is 30. She's about to be 37. So I feel like it's now or never for Verna Jandiroba, and I think she has a chance to, make it to the Wei fight. And I'm trying to think how that fight will go. I mean, I would definitely pick Wei just because she's been a force, but Verna Jandiroba is no slump. But I'm definitely gonna be picking her in this matchup. I think submission is live, and it'll be tough for Yan Xiaonan. I don't know what they would give her next. The Tabitha Ritchie fight was it was okay, but yeah, I'm going Vernon Jandaroba. Next up, we got Dan 50K Ige taking on Sean the Sniper Woodson. This is a fun matchup. You got the tall, lanky featherweight taking on, Mr. Body Bags himself, Dan 50K Ige. Big reach advantage for Sean Woodson, though, 78 to 71 inches. Sean Woodson, if you guys don't know, he used to be a professional boxer. I'm not sure what his record was, but he used to fight at heavyweight as well. That's why he looks, his build is very awkward, very skinny in the legs. He's got a decent, upper body, but yeah, very weird build. My question on this fight is, how does Dan Ige overcome the reach disadvantage? The Diego Lopes loss is forgivable. That was on 45 minutes notice. The Lerone Murphy loss is forgivable. Lerone Murphy's tough. Bryce Mitchell, I can't remember that fight, but that doesn't really age well for me. Beat Nate Landwehr, knocked out Andre Philly first round. I remember that. I don't know, man. I don't know how he's going to overcome this reach advantage, but Sean Woodson has definitely been cracked before. If you look at this, I want to say it was a draw. I thought it was a no contest, but the Saldana fight, he got cracked early, and then Saldana thought the fight was over. The ref didn't call it, and it was also some illegal shots. I think it was like a knee to the head or something like that while he was grounded. But Sean Woodson has definitely been cracked, but since then, he's made the adjustments. Tough fight with Charles Jourdain, Alex Casares. He pretty much handled him, and then the Padilla knockout was pretty nice. Sean Woodson's, he's looking to enter the rankings, and this is a pretty good matchup for him. I mean, he has the advantage. He should utilize the boxing. I just don't want to see him in the pocket with Dan Ige, because if he lands, it could be night. So I'm gonna be picking Sean Woodson, but there's some caution around this fight. There's just caution around every Dan Ige fight. This dude can crack. So shout out to Dan Ige for making fights very tough to predict, but I'm going to go with Sean Woodson. And opening up the main card, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a W in the chat if you enjoy the content. We got Nikita Krylov taking on Dominic Reyes. I'm picking Dominic. I think Dominic is making another run for the title. If you look at his losses, sure, it looks bad. Let's go through them though. Ryan Spann knocked out. Okay, Ryan Spann he's all right. He's not good. We can say it now. He's not good. But Yuri Prohaska, champion. Jan Blachowicz, champion. John Jones, champion. And who's the other one? John Jones. Okay, yeah. Champion, and then Ryan Spann. First round knockout. That was nasty. But Nikita Krylov, he has not fought in 2 years. His last fight was Ryan Spann. He got the submission. Ozdemir, unanimous decision, and the corpse of Gustafson at that point. I think Dominic is the better striker. I would like for him to avoid the wrestling, but he's no slouch. His takedown defense is pretty good, actually. I could see him defending a lot of Nikita's takedown attempts and, forcing the fight to be on the feet. And I favor Dominic Reyes in that style fight. He's got a lot of power in his hands. Who did he just knock out? Dustin Jacoby knockout was impressive, and then Anthony Smith, he's washed too, but he knocked him out when a younger guy couldn't even knock him out. And Vitor Petrino got subbed by Anthony Smith. So I mean, we got to rank that somewhere. But I think Dominic Reyes is gonna pull it out. Method of victory, I don't know. That's tough. I can see like a split decision, and he keeps climbing the light heavyweight division. But I like Dominic Reyes' resurgence, man. He took a tough 3 losses in a row, but It was against. Look at the competition. Look at the competition from Dominic Reyes with only 18 fights versus Nikita Krylov with almost 40 fights. Has he fought a champion? Or he fought Ankalaev 4 years ago and lost. So Paul Craig got submitted by Paul Craig, and Nikita Krylov's got some pretty good submissions on his record. How many wins? I think he got like 13, 12 wins, or no, 16 submissions, and he got. I mean, Paul Craig is, you know, top tier submission ace, but Nikita, I don't think his striking is better than Dominic. He throws big wild shots, but I think Dominic is going to be a little bit more calculated, and I see him getting behind that jab, and I feel like Dominic is going to pull it out on the scorecards. Probably a split decision though. Next up, we got Yair Rodriguez taking on Patricio Pitbull. So I feel like this fight should have been made probably like 5 years ago. I'm picking Yair. The issue with picking Yair is his IQ, man. That fight with Brian Ortega, he was definitely supposed to win. Cracked him in the first round, had him hurt, and then he just decides to wrestle with him. And Brian Ortega ends up getting an arm triangle. The loss to Volk, I mean, it was Volk, and it was Volk right after the Islam fight or the first Islam fight, and Volk was on a different level, so that's forgivable. Then the Max Holloway loss is forgivable too. Max was, Max. I think Max went on to fight for the title right after that fight. Then the Brian Ortega first win, it was a fluke. He, got injured, and then he beat Josh Emmett for the interim title. But Yair has a speed advantage in this fight, definitely. Um, I would edge power to maybe Pitbull, but he's super hesitant. If you look at his, recent fights, he's really hesitant, and he got cracked by what's this guy's name? Jeremy Kennedy. Got cracked. Yair's, kicking ability is definitely something to note in this fight. Yair still has pop. He's no scrub or anything like that. He just makes mistakes. But I feel like the mistakes won't be as consequential in this fight because I feel like this is going to remain on the feet. I don't think they're going to look to. I feel like the only time they'll look to wrestle is if one of them is hurt. And I see Yair doing the damage, honestly. Yair is super active with his kicks. He's always following up with something, and I feel like he can batter Patricio's leg up, and it's gonna slow down his movement even more. He's 30. He's about to be 38 years old. He's super short for the division too. You can see the reach advantage is pretty significant. He's like a he's similar to Michael Chandler almost. I would say from watching the tape, but I feel like Yair is I don't know. I just wish this matchup was made a few years ago. Then it would be a lot more interesting. But he was stuck over in PFL or Bellator, PFLator, whatever you want to call it, for however long, and he ran, the division over there. But I don't know, man. I feel like it's a little too late, and I feel like Yair is a big jump in the division. I would have. Who would I have matched him up with? I feel like the Ortega fight probably would have worked a little better. Maybe the Ortega or, but it wouldn't be that fun. I think that's the issue. So it would have had to been a fun fight. Sadiq Yusuf would have been cool too, but I don't know. I think Yair's gonna get it done. I think he's gonna get a lot of damage done too. Look out for the elbows, the knees, the head kicks. He's just a little too fast for Patricio at this point, I believe. So I'm gonna edge Yair Rodriguez. Think he gets it done. Scorecards. Next up, we got. I don't got the right glasses, but the Fighting Nerds. Gene Silva taking on Bryce Mitchell. Gene Silva by, however, I think he's gonna kill Bryce Mitchell, and all respect to Bryce Mitchell, but coming off that Josh Emmett knockout, I think it's gonna look a lot similar. Maybe not, overhand right or anything like that, but Johnson was too quick. He's too powerful. Uh, he's not going to, even if he does engage in the wrestling with Bryce Mitchell, I think he's going to be able to throw him off of him, similar to what Ilya was able to do when they matched up. I think Johnson is he's gonna murder Bryce Mitchell. Now I would be surprised if Bryce has some wrestling success, but we have. I'm trying to think, has anyone tried to wrestle John Silva? I think Drew Dober did a little bit. Charles did, and got knocked out. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else really trying to wrestle. But even when they did, they ended up getting knocked out. So, Dr. Stoppage over Drew Dober, knockout on Jordan Weston Williams, knockout. Kevin Vallejos, who's back in the UFC now. That was, a good fight. Hopefully they end up getting matched up. But yeah, Bryce Mitchell's gonna get absolutely worked. John Silva is too powerful. He's too quick. He's too strong. And I feel like Bryce Mitchell is just taking his fight because he called him out. Respect to Bryce Mitchell for making the fight happen, but this is definitely playing into the hands of John Silva and definitely climbing him up. The rankings, getting him to not a title shot immediately after, but lining him up for a title shot pretty soon. I don't think they'll give him like Lerone Murphy fresh after this, but he'll definitely be, talked about for getting set up for a title shot. So John Silva by murder for sure. And in the co-main event, we got 5 rounds. Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. So this is how I see the fight playing out. I think Michael Chandler is going to be super dangerous early, right? I think he's going to look to close a gap super quick. I just don't know how successful he's going to be in doing that. Michael Chandler did not look as explosive as he did in the last fight with Charles Oliveira. He did have some, late success, but I don't know if he's going to be able to knock out Paddy Pimblett. He can. Now, the issue with Paddy Pimblett is he keeps his chin really, really high. This is his first 5-round fight, too, and him gassing out in the Tony Ferguson fight was disgusting. Maybe it was a bad weight cut. Who knows? The Bobby Green fight was, ended pretty quick, so we couldn't see what his gas tank looked like then. But from what I've been seeing from Paddy Pimblett, it looks like he's taking this, this training camp super serious. But Michael Chandler has always been locked in. He's never not showing up to fight. He's always gonna put on a performance, and I can see him possibly cracking Paddy. I don't know if he knocks him out, but he can definitely, clip him. Paddy striking isn't nothing to, play about either. And he definitely has the edge in wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So it'll be interesting what Michael Chandler decides to do in this fight. He's definitely going to have to close the gap. And I think his only method of victory will be by knockout. It's just a matter of, can he get it done? I feel like Paddy will be, a little too elusive early on at least. I feel like Michael Chandler's best bet will be maybe like a 4th round, a tired Paddy, and he clips him late. It would be, I mean, man, I don't know. I think, ultimately, I think Paddy wins. I'm picking Paddy. But Michael Chandler is always interesting. He almost finished Charles Oliveira last time out. Granted, some back of the head shots. The Dustin Poirier fight was tick for tack for majority of the fight. The Tony Ferguson knockout. The Justin Gaethje fight, he almost knocked out Justin Gaethje. And then Charles Oliveira, he almost got him out in the 1st round. So Michael Chandler is no slouch. He's always there to fight. He's always showing up. He's always giving a performance. It's just these guys are a little bit better than him. Paddy, The UFC wants Patty to win bad. Michael Chandler lost. I don't know what that would do for him. I mean, he's definitely going to get more fights, but against who, you know? Patty wins. If Patty wins, let's see. Let's see what the rankings are looking like. If Patty wins, do you do where's Chandler? Okay, so 11 and 12. If Patty wins, do you give him Dan Hooker? Do you give him? I don't think he's touching any of the top five. I feel like UFC actually on I believe it was the Spanish broadcast. They leaked that Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria is happening. If that's true, that's very interesting, and I don't want to pick that fight, but if it's true, I'll be sure to give you guys a breakdown on it. But yeah, I don't see Patty touching any of the top five off of unless he knocks Michael Chandler out in like the first 20 seconds. Maybe they give him, Armin, or I think Gamera has a fight book. Dustin's fighting a legend, apparently. But I can definitely see Patty versus Dan. Patty versus Dan, or Patty versus Arman probably would be the path that the UFC goes. And Michael Chandler wins, I don't know. You give him Moicano? 5-round fight night? Possibly. Not at the Apex, somewhere in front of a crowd, because Michael Chandler is not an Apex fighter. But I think Patty gets it done. He could possibly submit Michael Chandler. I could see Michael Chandler making a mistake like he always does, giving up his back, and Patty jumps on him, latches on him, and gets the neck, submits him. It wouldn't be surprising to me if he gets a submission in this fight. Speaking of which, I have fight odds open. Let me see if they have a line for, no, it's not available yet. But I wonder what Patty by submission looks like. That'll definitely be something I'll be looking at to play for Makai's money making plays when I drop the video. But yeah, I'm going Patty Pimblett. I think he gets it done. And lightweight division is heating up. It's always been on fire, but it's definitely heating up. And in the main event, we got Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. Oh man, two of my favorite fighters. I hate when this happens. I hate having to pick someone, but this is a job that I signed up to do. I'm gonna pick Diego. I think, oh man, I'm trying to give Volk, the benefit of the doubt. He came back off the Islam knockout against Ilya super quick. Bad decision from him, but he sat out for a while, allowed his brain to recover, allowed his chin to recover. But I don't think he's great at making adjustments, right? But I feel like Diego's pressure and flurries is going to give Volkanovski a lot of trouble. Yes, he came back and fought Ilya on short notice, or came back super quick on short notice, whatever you want to say. But Ilya extending the combinations is what ultimately won him the fight. When I was watching it, the first round, Volkanovski's head was all the way up here. I said, oh my gosh, he's going to get knocked out. And he ended up getting knocked out. The extended combinations by Diego Lopes is definitely going to be a factor in this fight. I can see him pressuring Volk up against the cage, not allowing him to circle out. And I think he could, let one rip and possibly hurt Volk and get him out of there. Now, the likelihood of, a 36-year-old winning the title has been, I don't think anyone has done it. Probably Glover and, John Jones, but in the lower weight classes, I don't think anyone has done it past, I want to say the stat is like 35. I love Volk, man. I want him to win the title, but this is a very nasty matchup for him. If it was against Movsar, I would have picked Alexander Volkanovski, no hesitation. I feel like he's a lot better striker, and I feel like he could defend a lot of the takedowns. But Diego, I think he's too relentless with the pressure, man. I can see Now this is Volkanovski's advantage. He has the 5 round experience. The gas tank has never given up on him. People want to say Diego gassed out or was getting beat up by Diego. By Dan Ige in his fight on the Sphere card. But let's break that down. Diego Lopes was supposed to fight Brian Ortega at 145. Brian Ortega gets sick. They say the fight's going to be at 155. So he weighed in twice. Then they say Brian Ortega's not fighting. And 45 minutes later, he's fighting Dan Ige at 165. At 165. So he cut weight or made weight 3 times in 20 something hours, 30 something hours. So give the guy some slack on that one. He definitely made it entertaining for the first 2 rounds. Got tired late, but the matchup switched on him super quick, and the weight cut was, he had to cut weight 2 or 3 times. So, but other than that, Pat Sabatini knockout. Look at Pat Sabatini now, just washed Joanna Sombrito. Sadiq Yusuf knockout was disgusting. The Dan Ige win, and then the Brian Ortega, he knocked Brian Ortega out in the first round and then woke him back up. I don't know, man. I feel like he's going to hurt Volkanovski possibly early. I think finish within 3 rounds is definitely live. Now, if it goes past 3, I think, Volkanovski's experience will definitely play a huge part in this fight, but I think Diego gets it done. And he's taking the belt back to Brazil. Featherweight division has another Brazilian champion. It's been a while. It's been a while for a Brazilian champion in the featherweight division. Oh, man. I don't want to pick against Alex, but I kind of have to. Yeah, I'm going with Diego Lopes. I think he finds a finish. I can see like a left hook drop in Volk, and that's all she wrote. Hopefully he doesn't retire after that. I would like to see him fight at least one more time if he does lose. But if he wins, hey, he said he's right back on the gas pedal, fighting Mozart, fighting whoever wants to fight for the belt, and that's exactly what the division needs. Somebody who's going to be, keeping that activity up. And Volkanovski was a great champion. He is a great champion, and I respect the hell out of everything that he did for, the UFC and the featherweight division. The 3 fights with Max was amazing. The Korean Zombie finish was amazing. The Yair finish was amazing. Volkanovski is elite, one of the greatest of all time. But I think he's a little bit past his days. I know he's, taking some time off to recover, but I don't know, man. Diego, he's no slouch. And I feel like he's not going to have respect for Alexander Volkanovski in the octagon either. I feel like he's going to come forward and look to land a big shot. I think he does. So Diego Lopes is the pick. And new belt is going back to Brazil. Well, guys, that's it for the predictions. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be sure to, give you guys some more content this week. We got Makai's Money Making Plays, the weigh-in recap, and the immediate full card recap as soon as the card is done. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next.